guys! Okay, in the last video I showed you how to prep your commercial top to create a solid color striping yarn. This is my basket. Before we start, I do want to show you what a finished project might look like. This is a thrummed mitten I made from the first time I tried this, and as you can see there are little stripes there. Some of them are more of a subtle color change, others are more like this pretty brownish burnt orange to the blue and the greens. Okay, so that's sort of depending on the colors that are in your roving or top. That'll be similar to what it will do. So this is my basket. Okay, this middle piece here is the last piece that I had stripped off and put in here. So this is where I want to start. And I know it looks like I have no idea which way I'm going. Basically, this is just to keep it sort of in order. I can't guarantee that I'm going to follow exactly the same layout that I put in here, but as long as the edges match up, I don't really care. So this is where I'm starting, and I'm going to go this way and then back again and back again. So, it looks like my second piece in here is matching up to this pinkish color here. So this is where I start, this end. Alright? So we've got here and come on. There we go. Now I might find that as I'm spinning this I would have preferred to pre-draft it, which is definitely possible. I remember the last time I did this it was a little compacted, and that's kind of looking to be what my issue is here. So, oh my. Pardon me. This just goes to show that each fiber is going to behave a little differently. See, now I'm having trouble here. I'm just going to break this off, actually, and sit it there and see if I can draft it back just a little. And you'll notice I'm wearing an apron. That is because I know from previous experience that this particular wool does bleed. Can't see it just yet, especially the yellows, but I don't mind if it gets on my apron. I don't mind if I have weirdly colored fingers for a few days, but it does look a little awkward when your pants are tinged yellow. So, okay, I'm just gonna park that there for a sec, pre-draft just a little, just to help myself out. And if I had started spinning before I started recording this video, this already would have been done. But I did want to show you where I start and how I know where to go with how I keep things in order. I know some of you might have a different preference to keeping it in order. If I had more space and my husband didn't mind the clutter, I probably would have just laid it all out on the coffee table for the past week and let it stay. But that wasn't quite an option, so instead it's in a basket, but it's no big deal. So like I said before, I'm not entirely concerned with following the order in the first place, the way it is in the basket. Sometimes the fun of spinning like this is just going where your heart desires. So before, I may have wanted to go from this reddish pink fuchsia, I guess you might call it, to an orange. Maybe now I want to go more towards the brownish. It doesn't matter, as long as the ends kind of match. That's the biggest thing. Because you do want it to look pretty seamless, right? You do kind of want it to be blending when the color changes. And part of the, I guess part of the key to getting it to be like that is the way that you ply it. Before I did Navajo ply it, or chain ply, as some of you know it as, and that's the best way that I've found to keep the color changes, but really you can ply it any way you want, I suppose. This is just a fun way to mess with the color. The Navajo plying ensured that I could control exactly where the color started and stopped. It didn't overlap too much in the finished yarn. If you like the kind of barber pole effect, you can do that. If you want it more of like a three, well, technically that is a 3-ply, but not Navajo plied. Say you take like 3 singles and you ply them up all together for more of that effect, that'll work too. I guess in some ways this is sort of like a fractal, but also kind of not. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just kind of going with the flow, and I thought this was really, really fun. It was a fun way to just kind of mess with the color, because that's one of the things I love about spinning. Messing with the color, getting what I want. So while I did like it in the braid, and I imagine it probably would have made a lovely fractal, or just spinning it straight the way it was, I prefer to mess with color. I really do. It's so fun. Because, well, look at this. This is the, hold on, I have another mitten on the go here. This is what the ball looks like when you ball it up like that, and it's kind of like those really awesome ombres, but it's something you did, and you can see the color changes specifically. You can see exactly where that's changing, and I love that so much. And depending on what you knit, it's gonna pull really cool. So I'm really happy with the mitten there. When I first did this, I had split it into 2 separate piles, exactly the same order, so I ended up with 2 skeins of yarn. Exactly, well, pretty much near exactly the same. So that's another method. You can split the roving into as many different groups as you want for however many specific skeins you want of that stripe. Okay, so I'm at the end here, and that looks like a nice blend, don't you think? And once again, I'm going to save myself a little trouble here, because it is a little compacted. It's kind of, I mean, it's really, really lovely to spin. This is extrafine merino, so it's super soft, and it does flow really well. It just needs a little bit of pre-drafting to get it not so hard and packed together. As you can see, my fingers are already turning pink, so I'll have to toss it in some vinegar to make sure that all the dye is there, and then wash it in some, I like the original Blue Dawn dish liquid. I think it's Synthropol that gets the excess color out, like it just binds to it, and it'll help wash it out. I did have to do that with the other one too, because that was also the Manos Del Uruguay. I did have to dye it, or bath it like that. I didn't get all of it out. I did get most of it out, but because I don't think it's a huge deal with the mittens, because they are thrummed, I don't think that the dye is really going to go through that level of nice white wool inside to stain your hands. So it did, the yellowish bits did stain my fingers while I was knitting, but it was nothing too awful, so I'm not really concerned. But if any of you isn't sure what I'm talking about with dye or washing it to get the excess dye out, let me know. I can make a video of that as well. I do love sharing my knowledge. I may not always be 100% correct, but I do work from experience, and I'm not afraid to admit that I can be wrong. So, but I do know what works for me, and I am not afraid to share that. I love sharing that. That's the whole reason I started making these videos. So, it's really just taking the pieces out, making sure the ends are going to blend together well, or go into your next color. This is actually just the same color, but it's a nice long bit of pink that'll make a lovely block of color towards the end. I don't know if you noticed, but this piece ended in like a nice sherbety orange. So the next color we'll go into will be orange. And you just keep matching up your ends, spinning it all together. One thing I will say, this is a great way to practice joins. Not even kidding. There are so many of them. If you're not good at it, I highly recommend trying this, because you will be a pro towards the end. I promise. It might look lumpy and bumpy, and they might not be perfect in the beginning, but really, practice does make perfect. The more you do it, the better you will get. And this is a really good way to do it, because it's fun. So it doesn't feel like you're working towards practicing it, although you kind of are, but it's just it's a fun way to get that practice in, especially if you dread it, but you really love what the finished yarn might look like. So just try it. Share it. If you know a beginner spinner out there who's having trouble with these joins, show them this video. Tell them this will help you practice your joins, and you will end up with a beautiful yarn in the end. Because you really will. And one of my favorite things about Navajo plying, it is a 3-ply. You can control the color of the stripes, and it does help hide the gross little joins that you have when you're first starting out. It's a really good way to kind of hide your mistakes and the really, like, if you're wanting this nice thin, but you've got this bumpy little area there from the join, no one's gonna notice. If it's a little thin on one spot and big on another, no one will know but you. And really, like, see, look at that. That is a really thick piece, right? But, I mean, can you really tell when it's knit? Not really. Not really, no. So it's not a big deal. And if you've never Navajo plied before either, this is probably another fun way to practice. I mean, this is a good way to get a lot of practice in, because you're practicing your joins. I mean, maybe you need to practice your drafting. Maybe you've never tried the Navajo ply before. Maybe this is your first go at it. Awesome. Seriously, awesome. And even if you don't like to Navajo ply when you're done, at least you tried. You kind of know what you're doing. You can say that you can do it. It might not be your preferred method, but you can do it. And how cool is that? I mean, to know something, to know how to do something, you may not like it, but you know how to do it. You can pass that knowledge on to someone who may benefit from it, someone who may need to know, someone who actually will end up loving it. And you can share that with them. Okay, so I'm at the end. Look at my pretty fingers. Okay, and it's looking like my next one here. Yep, see? Orange. Okay, so I'm going to blend that in, and I pulled that just a bit. So I'm going to park this here, do my pre-drafting. I apologize. I should have done this before I started, but it doesn't take super long. Okay, and it kind of breaks things up a bit. Sometimes I get really distracted, and I get bored because I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. Can you imagine pre-drafting all of these pieces before you start spinning? Some people might love it. I personally would go crazy. I would get bored and I'd sit it away, and this video wouldn't happen for probably another 2 weeks. So this just keeps it interesting for me. And I'm just gonna join again. sections. Just a little, it's getting a little thin there. I'm just going to join it up in here, I think. Yeah. And see, I'm not even claiming that I can join pretty well now, but I am better. They stick. They don't fly off once they get up to the bobbin there. They don't fly apart. That was one of the things I had a lot of trouble with before, especially when working on that yarn. I didn't know how to join well, and it wasn't pretty. It would break and it would fly over everywhere, and I would get so frustrated. And practice, 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 practice. So this is how you do it. You just keep doing this until you run out, and that's what I'm going to do. And when I'm done, when I'm ready to ply, I will cut back into the video and show you how to do it. It's not going to be a tutorial on how to Navajo ply, I don't believe. So I may make one of those videos in the future, but for now, the general knowledge is handy. Well, who knows? Maybe I will make it into a little tutorial. But anyway, I will meet you back here when I am ready to ply, and I will show you how I keep the colors in their own little sections. That might sound self-explanatory, but I do want to demonstrate for anyone who might be new to spinning and aren't entirely sure how to do it. Like, I don't want to leave you with a half-finished yarn just spinning the single and just leave you sitting there going, okay, what do I do next? Right? Because that would be mean, wouldn't it? That would be really rude. I'm not going to do that to you. So I will meet you back here. I got a whole basket. Hopefully you have a whole basket too. Enjoy your spin.